All right, Coach, coming off a 100-68 win at Mars Hill on Wednesday, a game where you weren't exactly super thrilled with the performance, but you played well enough in spurts and particularly on offense to come out of there with a win. So kind of what did you see from that game over there on Wednesday?
Well, I thought offensively we were really good. You look at the numbers, I thought on a night where we didn't shoot the ball great, our three-point shooting, we took good shots, just didn't make as many as we could have. Thought we generated good shots and obviously shared the ball, 28 assists, played with good pace, scored 100, and again shot 55% from the field. So there was a lot to feel good about on the offensive end. My issue with the team on Wednesday was defensively. I thought, I know the numbers don't bear it out, it's pretty misleading, but we didn't guard, we were poor defensively. I thought we were fortunate. Mars Hill missed some plays they normally make, had some easy layups, had some wide open threes. Particularly we were poor in transition, we didn't do really anything. It starts with effort and urgency sprinting back. I don't think we had any urgency getting back and getting our defense set, and gave up, I think, multiple, and I'd say multiple, more than 5, wide open layups at the rim in the second half alone, a couple more in the first half, and again, fortunate in the first half, they missed a few of those bunnies. So, it was a tale. Obviously our offense was good enough to get the job done. We played well enough on the offensive end. Again, we were a little bit fortunate that maybe Mars Hill had some looks that they 9 out of 10 times and knocked down and just weren't able to make them that night. They gave us separation at halftime. We were up at halftime, I think 25, and then the second half was pretty much on even terms, both ways, and the shots that they missed for the most part in the first half they just made. In the second half, I didn't think we guarded them any better, any worse. Our defense was pretty poor for 40 minutes. So, and again, it was particularly noticeable in the transition. But thankfully, we have Newberry Dave coming in, so they won't challenge our transition defense at all. They'll walk it up, play deep in the shot clock, and we won't have to worry about transition defense at all on Saturday, I'm sure, with Dave and Newberry coming in.
Well, and obviously one of the big storylines, we'll look ahead to Newberry here in a minute, but that's your 28th straight Southland Conference win, one away from tying the program's and the conference record with 29 straight SAC wins. What has it been like to be just in a league as competitive as this one is, to have another streak of this length going right now?
Yeah, it's I guess something, if you thought about it, it would probably be overwhelming. So I try just to avoid thinking about it. We try to really, I know it sounds cliche, but we really try to focus in completely on the game at hand. And I know everybody gets, and it's great, to talk about streaks and strings, and you've beaten this many teams or this team this many times or whatever the case may be. But from our standpoint, with this group, I do think it's a credit to certainly what they've done, and obviously last year's team as well, because it's really a streak that spans 2 different tems, kind of like the previous one we had when we won, I guess, 29 in a row from 14-15 to 15 through 15-16. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter when you get on the floor on Saturday. It's about playing well on Saturday. It's about trying to be as good as you can be and as focused you can be, and continue to improve and get better. And that's really where our attention has to be. Anytime you get thinking about, I think, things like that, tell guys all the time, that kind of stuff can soften you, and you got to play with an edge, and you got to play focused. And in this league, and Newberry certainly is the case, but really across the board, if you're not ready for your next turn at bat, if you're not focused on the task at hand, you get beat. And you see results all the time in this league that are kind of head scratching, where you go, geez, I can't believe so and so lost to so and so. But it happens, and it happens generally because the mentality, the psychological disposition is not correct. You're not focused on the appropriate thing. And so for us, we talk to our guys all the time about staying in the moment, trying to put our best foot forward, focus on the task at hand. And while I think those things are, you can certainly have a chance to sit back, and reflect on these, because they are, again, it's a great accomplishment to win as many games as this team has, or that, last year's team or those previous teams. But you can't reflect on it at all at this point. You got to just kind of keep your nose to the grindstone, keep trying to get better, and at the end of the year, they add them all up, and you see how you did.
When you look ahead to this Newberry game, really they've been one of the teams that has really been kind of a thorn in our side ever since you've been here. We've only got 6 losses at Textron Arena since the start of the 2013-14 campaign. 2 of them are compliments of Newberry. Newberry also gave us one of the toughest tests this year, a 98-94 win over there in Newberry. So kind of what is it about them that makes it so challenging?
Well, I just think, I think there's probably a multitude of things, but one, with the Dave Davis team, it doesn't matter who's in that Newberry uniform. You're going to get a team that plays as hard as anybody in the country. They're going to compete from the tip of the buzzer, 40 minutes at full speed, full throttle. You're talking about extreme pressure on both ends of the floor. Obviously, I was joking before about the transition. They're going to test our transition as well as anybody we play all year. They're as good as anybody in the country at getting the ball up and down the floor. Their pace of play is frenetic, and they do obviously defensively. It's the same thing. I mean, they're into you for 94 feet for 40 minutes. You better be ball tough. And be able to handle the ball against that pressure. You better own your space, being able to get open one pass away and square up and be strong and not be on your heels. And you better, be sharp with your drive. You better be aggressive and get your shoulders by and force help and then make the right basketball play behind that. I mean, it's a difficult task. And I think all those things make them challenging. And not just for us. I think also Newberry and this year's team, but they've been really good the last, if you want to take some states, been the last 8 years really. And then this year's team seems to play its best in the biggest games. We've had 3 teams in our league in the top 25, including number 1 and 2, and you can make a really strong case that our game against them there, they could have easily won that game. It was tied with 40 seconds to go, and they had Queens down, I think 5 with 3 minutes to go, and they easily could have won that game. So they're capable. Everybody's capable. They're capable of beating anybody in the country on any given night, and they've lost some games probably that they'd like to have back. They're certainly much better than 5 and 8 in this conference. That shows the depth of conference and really what we talked about. That anybody can beat anybody on a given night. So they're as dangerous a team as there is in the country. I think they give us trouble because they're just all those things. They play exceptionally hard. They're going to come in here. They're not going to they're going to get into us. We're going to have to be really strong with the ball. We're going to have to do a better job than we did certainly the first game. You look at it and I thought they dominated the last 12, 13 minutes of that game. We were really fortunate to escape. We did some good things. We got up 20, and they cut it back to 10. We got back up, I think, 18, and then they cut it right back down, and it's tied with 40 seconds to go. We made some plays there down the stretch to win it, but we're going to have to be ready for a battle, and again, we have to do a great job on both ends of the floor to have a chance on Saturday.
When you're on a 9-game winning streak, trying to push it to 10 on Saturday, and the last 5 games of this 9-game winning streak have been incredible. 32-point win, 44-point win, 33-point win, 29-point win, and 39-point win. Obviously, the scores, there's not much that you could complain about there, but what do you see, if you're getting nitpicky, that this team needs to clean up heading to the last month of the regular season?
No, I think there's a lot of areas we can clean up, but I always get back with these guys. And we've done a better job the last 3 games, but making sure we take care of the ball. We can get better, certainly. Our defensive rebounding, I think we have the 2 best rebounders in the league, and Emmanuel and Dorian. And that has a tendency to create a sense of security for our guys. They don't have to go rebound. When you're playing a team, it was particularly galling against Newberry. They shot, I think, 44, 45 threes. And so that long shots usually the long rebounds, and we're doing a horrible job, our guards are, of cleaning up those we call loose change rebounds, those balls that bounce out of the free throw line. Newberry beat us to all those, and we've had trouble with that. We can defensive rebound. Our defensive rebounding percentage can be significantly better. I think our ball screen coverage, and there's some things that go, like our defensive transition was really good for a number of games, and it was horrendous against Mars Hill. So you're constantly going back and trying to, plug holes that open up, and you're trying to build on strengths, and that's why it's a constant process. It's all we would say it's all pretty fragile. You're a good transition defensive team, but we have been, but we weren't on Wednesday because we didn't do the things that good transition defensive teams do. We didn't sprint back. We weren't urgent. We didn't get the ball picked up early enough. We didn't shrink the floor. We didn't do anything that you need to do to be. We didn't protect the basket. We didn't stop the ball. I mean, there was nothing that we did on Wednesday. So just because you've done something doesn't mean it's going to continue to be a strength. That's only a strength if you continue to do the things that make it good, if that makes any sense. And so for us going into this stretch, I think there's a multitude of areas we got to continue to get better at. The biggest thing we talked about maybe a week and a half ago with our team was the possession game and making sure that if we're equal, we feel like we have good enough players, not that we'll win every single game, but we'll give ourselves a chance every single game if we're equal or better in the possession game. And you look at the Newberry game the first time, they outshot us 87-71, so we were minus 16. So we were really, to win there is fool's gold. We talked about Queens, 66-48, we were minus 18, fool's gold. Northwest Missouri State, 59-45, and they were plus 13 on free throws. So I mean, it's it's very difficult, if not impossible, to win if you're minus like that in the possession game. And so for us, that really comes to two factors. You got to make sure you're taking care of the ball, and we got to make sure we're defensive rebounding. 19 offensive rebounds against Newberry last time. So there's a lot to still clean up, a lot we can get better at. They know we've done a lot of good things while we're 20-1. We've got a really good team. They're working hard. They're talented. They've got way more positives and negatives, but it's about building on those positives. And then as we get here to the stretch run, trying to find a way to start, improving and playing our best basketball as we get towards the end of this month.